It's like dieting or like anything else. Just because you had a bad day or one day didn't go your way, you can't just don't throw it all out the window. Relax, forgive yourself, and just pick it back up the next day with whatever you had planned and just keep going from there. Nothing's going to go perfect in life. That's just the reality of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, and anyone else who is here, my name is Dom Amour, and you are listening to the Black Man Talking Emotions podcast. On today's episode, I speak with former roommate Joe Groeller about goals, routines, and consistency. By taking the time to stop and appreciate who you are and what you've achieved, and perhaps learned through a few mistakes, stumbles, and losses, you actually can enhance everything about you. Self-acknowledgement and appreciation are what give you the insights and awareness to move forward towards higher goals and accomplishments. Joe and I started a podcast years ago. How long ago did we do that? 2012?
No, 2014.
Wow. So that was our old, it was called A Cup of Joe and Dom. It was sports talk. And then we were going to do another, but it didn't work out. And I know that Joe was overworked. You were doing like 3 podcasts at once, I think, right?
Yeah, and still working in radio at the time too. So
yeah, it was just crazy. So if anything, I understand even more now producing, editing, and doing my own podcast now, just how much work you were going through before I got the luxury of all of these easy plugins that help me take sound out of backgrounds and easy logons that I could just go one place shop. They master it and send it off to the millions of places that they send it. And I just appreciated the work you did so much. And I do more and more every day.
Well, thank you.
The first thing we're going to start with is goals. You know, you write your goals down. If you're like me, you write them down and you try to tell people about it, but a lot of people try to keep them to their chest. You know, J. Cole's one of my favorite rappers. I'm paraphrasing. Let me make sure I'm paraphrasing because I can't think of the line exactly right now. He's saying, telling people your dreams can kill your dreams in ways.
I agree with that.
But I don't. I think you have to tell people your goals. You have to put it into the universe. It has to be out there because you never know who will help you. Yeah, there are those people who are going to sabotage you, but like, you could be talking about, hey, I got a goal for this. And this person's like, hey, I actually do this for a living. Let me help you.
Okay. And I agree with you on that standpoint. Where it gets detrimental is, and we've seen this ourselves through multiple people we've experienced in our lives, is that if you just make goals and you start talking about them, it becomes talk.
Yes.
That's it. It becomes, oh, hey, man, I'm going to be doing this. Or, oh, hey, I'm going to be doing this. And I'll be honest, I'm guilty of that too in the past a few times. Mm-hmm. You have to actually put it in perspective and want to move forward with what it is that you set your mind to. I look back and the things I've achieved in life and I'm happy about that I've achieved in life, they were goals of mine, but they weren't goals I was actually talking about, I noticed. They were more goals that I was working on. And because they were so personal to me and I really wanted them, they actually came true. And I didn't realize it till I looked back and go, oh my God, wow. Like that actually happened. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that I remember thinking about that. And now it's a real thing.
I have a lot of goals, of course. And I feel like I've had a lot of goals since high school. And that was when it started, where I actually tried my best to do what I could to push my goals to the narrative of what I was doing in my life, you know? And like I said, I feel like it's important to write it down. I feel like it's important to speak about it, speak out, because you never know who can help you out. And keeping it to yourself, it just may keep it from the right person. You know, that's the way I view it. And just a few of my goals. I'm doing a calendar this year, of course, and I try to get my planner together, and it has yearly goals in it. And I was like, oh, that's so dope, because I always just write it in my notes, and I was like, I'll put it in my planner. So first one is always love my wife. Just in general, I feel like writing it out, looking at it, reading it over and over, reminding myself, that's what you're supposed to do. it really helps me. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really does. It's like, what have I done today? Oh man, let me go kiss my wife, or let me make sure she, say I love you or something. Just, it keeps it in my mind. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it as something that's important. And it's number one instead of everything else. The first thing I see is that. I think that's incredible. And it really is helpful. Write a song. I want to write 100 songs this year. That's a goal for me. I want to do 100 this year.
That's a lofty one.
But I want to do it. And that's just 2 songs a week. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I want to speak to friends and loved ones weekly. I want to talk to somebody that I love dearly every week. I want to produce a new album. I want to format a poem book because I do poems with this podcast every week. I want to make sure that I find a place that I could put those poems out on paper and put it out. It'd be fun. I want to learn 52 new songs this year. New songs that I didn't write. I want to learn 52 new. So a song a week. I want to study music more, study Spanish more. I want to get better on stage. I want to get better vocally. I want to produce at least 5 shows this year. I want to breathe more. I have a lot of stuff on here. I think it's very important to every person who truly believes in themselves to say, hey, what do I want to do? If you can't look down and see exactly what you want to do, or you can't think about it and have it in your brain, how do you move forward? I have to have that solid visual understanding reminder, because I could have goals and then not talk about them for a couple of weeks and forget, oh, no. This is one of my goals. I got to do this,
Right.
Any chance you could share a few of your goals and also why goals are important to you?
Well, the reason goals are important to me is you have to set them to get anything done. And you were talking, I actually was going to ask you a question about that, was you just listed a lot of goals. Mm-hmm. You listed a lot of lofty ones and a lot of ones that people sit there and hear that and they go, oh my God, how am I ever going to get all that done?
Yeah.
And I think what I do is I set a goal of like this year, like I need to make a little bit more income.
Yeah.
And I also want to get back into radio.
Yeah.
So how I'm going to sit there and try and do both of those is once I get my equipment back, I'm going to start putting myself out on Fiverr or other apps and lend my voice out and try and get some freelance work that way. And that way I can kind of knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, when you hear a lofty goal or you hear a big goal, you kind of have to take a step back and go, you can't look at it, because if you just sit there and say it's all or nothing, or that's my goal and you don't accomplish it, it can get very depressing, or it can get you can get in your own head. So you kind of have to break it down and figure it out. Right now, I'm trying to build up enough points on a credit card to pay off for the board. And then once I do that, then I get the board. Then after I get the board, then I create my account. And if you check off all these little goals along the way, you end up looking back and you go, I've succeeded, and it's just like anything. Once you see some progress, you start to build momentum. It becomes a snowball rolling down a hill almost and just keeps accumulating.
I'm trying my best not to limit myself anymore. I want to make sure that I put something down and maybe I won't get it. Maybe I might not. Maybe I'll do 88 songs instead of 100 songs this year. That's still 88 new songs.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get better vocally. That isn't a concrete goal, but it's on purpose, because yesterday I rehearsed my vocals. Today I rehearsed my vocals. I'm already achieving that goal. I'm better than I was the day that I wrote it already. So I could check that off, but I'm not gonna, because I want to continue to get better. And I want to see that every day and go back and be like, I'm getting better today. Oh, what have I done today to get better vocally? Have I done my Spanish today? Have I wrote that? Have I done it today? It's just a reminder. My goals really are reminders that, hey, this is where my focus should be. I think it's so crucial. So many people get to this place where we can escape from the real world very easily now.
Oh yeah.
You get online, you play Call of Duty, and you're in the war. You're fighting for your country. But then you come back to the real world and just go back to sleep. It's like, no. What can I do in this world here? Candy Crush can wait. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That can wait. What do I do now to push myself to another level? In my head, I had a question I was going to ask you, and I wasn't sure how to phrase it. I was going to say, like, do you feel like your goals are unhealthy, or do you feel like you approached them wrong? Like, planning whatever you can do is very helpful. That's one thing that's kind of obvious from what I'm talking about. I can find myself nebulous. Like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? What do you think you feel like? Like, how do you attack your goals? How do you achieve them? How do you go for them? What do you put in place to get to that place? Because I heard you started to list a couple of things you did. Like, how do you keep those things you listed in proper place to go for those goals?
Well, okay. So I always start with you pick a goal, and then this is always the fun part because it's the easiest part. It's the planning part. Everything's possible. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? What do I want to do? The daydreaming, the fantasizing. And then once you have that, you have to break it down into steps, because too many times in my life, I've shot all the way up. And actually, when there was a point in my life where I was in therapy, they were even telling me about that. I had almost an all or nothing persona. If it sometimes it wouldn't be worth it if it didn't end up in this outcome or this way. And to sit there and just kind of break them down step by step. I'm someone that needs to see progression to kind of stay motivated.
Yeah.
And when I see that progression, I become even more motivated and I do more stuff. And that's what helps me. I sit there and I break them down into tiny little steps. And those steps, like I said, start accumulating. And then eventually, before you know it, you've actually achieved it. And you don't even sit there and go, oh, I achieved it. I think it's great to have daily tasks and make lists and things of that nature. But then you can get almost anxiety ridden if you're sitting there and you're listing all those little things. I'm not saying that's for everyone. You do a phenomenal job at staying on top of things like that. For me, it doesn't quite work that way. If I keep seeing, all these things and I don't list them out, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't get all this done. No, stop. Take one step and go forward. Do this one little thing. Just focus on this one little thing. Forget about everything else. Focus on this one little thing. And then after you've done that, just go to the next one. Heck, that's how I clean my house sometimes. The house is messy. Yeah, all right. I'm going to start in the back of the house. I'm going to start in the spare room. I'm going to clean that, and then I'm going to move to the hallway. All right. Then after that, I move to that. And then before you know it, you're done. It just kind of, it takes time and progression. But when you can see the achievements, you push harder, I think, even.
I see that, and I know that about you. I mean, our Mondays, when we used to go do Monday night football at Jack and Ginger's, those nights weren't really like we're going for football. We were going to get away from what we felt like we were not achieving. Like we were like,
right,
we need to get away from the house. We need to stop thinking about, oh, I should be doing this. No. You were just going to get some wings, a pitcher of beer, and to watch the game. It was to get us away, to zen us out, to calm us down. We're doing fine. Enjoy life a little bit. So I could totally see that, because that's how we were. We had to find that escape so that we wouldn't overthink, oh my God, I'm at home and I'm broken. I'm not performing, or I'm not out there pushing myself into the universe doing what I want to do. I totally agree with you on that. I see that. How do you feel you are doing when it comes to other people within your goals? Do you think about others when it comes to your goals, or your goals specifically directed towards the things you want to do for you?
My goals are specifically directed for what I want to do for me and my family.
Yeah.
I probably should even think about not only my family, but other people as well when I'm doing it more than I do. But unless it's me or my wife or something like that, I don't sadly think about it until it's boom, right there in my face. Because to me, the family is the most important aspect of it. Once you've taken care of, your coordinate group, then you can start to worry about other people. If you try and make everyone happy, then you end up miserable, because the truth is you can't make everyone happy.
Big facts. And I don't feel like a lot of people see that. And I struggle with that at times too, because I always like to reach out. I want to make sure people are good. I want to check in. I want to hear from people. I want to see how the world is going in other places that I'm not. And you get to this place where it's like certain people don't gravitate like that. Certain people don't need that comfort. Certain people don't want to hear from you every day. And it's hard. It's like, oh man, I just want to know how you are. I want to make sure that you're doing well. I want to hear back from you. And it's like, you got to find a way to, hey, this is something that you need. Maybe they don't need it. So maybe back off a little bit, find your peace and be okay with that. Cause it's totally true. Everyone's not the same.
I have friends that, we tell them, hey, text us when you get home or whatever, because we just want to know you're safe. And more times than not, they don't. Sometimes we don't hear from them for a day because then they need to shut down and kind of regroup. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'll tell you what, that same friend has come along and now started to text saying, hey, I made it home safe or whatever. It's like any relationship or in life, it's a progression. And even that you can see an evolution. I think going back to goals, which is what we were originally talking about, it's the same as that. It's all about an evolution and better. Look back and say, am I better off than I was a year ago? Am I better off than I was 5 years ago? The answer is yes. Great. You're in the right direction. If the answer is no, don't freak out just yet.
Yes.
Stop, take a look around and sit there and say, all right, why am I not better? Is it a financial situation? Is it a personal situation? Is it, something I'm doing in my spare time that I shouldn't be doing? If you can just take a step back and then figure out what you need to eliminate or what you need more of, then that can be your goal. And then you can sit there and figure out the necessary steps to take that.
Ah, damn, that's a great answer to that. I want to also jump onto something you said earlier, because you were talking about the past. In the past, how were you with your goals? Is it something that started when you were older, or was it when you were younger that you were like, okay, this is important to me. I need to make sure that I understand exactly what I want and move in the right direction with that. Like, do you feel like in high school you were doing this already, or this is something that happened later in life?
That's something that happened in my 20s.
Yeah.
I would say even well into so the first time I knew it, and you were actually there. The first time I figured this out was when we were doing side video projects and trying to make web series and things of that nature. Well, the web series failed and everything, but I came out of that knowing, basically going to a mini film school. I knew everything from lighting to sound design to blocking to script writing to cameras and everything else coming out of that. A goal of mine was always wanting to go to film school and knowing that. And looking back on it, were there stressful times? Sure. Was it chaotic? Absolutely. But did I weirdly achieve that goal? Yeah, I look back on it and I sat there down one day after it kind of failed and I go, man, I came out of this knowing more than some people that went to film school.
Yeah.
Which is quite impressive. Like, it's just because of the hands-on experience and just wanting to learn. We talked about our podcast earlier. I became a better sound engineer. Sure, I was doing radio and I was doing production so I could edit audio and do all that. Man, we started doing our podcast. I figured out 10 years ago. I mean, now, like you were just saying, it's a little bit easier, but I came out of that going, okay, I figured out how we can get a person in another city to talk to a person in another city and make it sound like they're in the same room and all that other stuff. And that helped me in my career at the time. And it's one of those things of, you set goals for yourself, but if you're not mindful of those goals, you may find out that you achieved them anyway. But if you're mindful of them, you'll achieve them a lot quicker and feel a lot better about the process. And you won't feel as stressed out by the process. You won't feel as stressed out like, oh, this is going wrong. Oh, this is going wrong. I just happen to have some determination trying to force some creative projects in the world that helped me out through that. But it was by doing that and looking back at how I achieved that kind of changed my mindset on how to achieve certain things in life.
I think about that podcast a lot. I think about a couple of Joe and Dom and how much fun we had and how much I really didn't know doing this pod. No, it's so true. Like I was Shaquille O'Neal and you were Ernie Johnson. I came into work every day. I said reckless shit and I walked away, and you went from there and created something that was so fun and so cool. And I would listen and be like, damn, how did I do this? And it's like, I didn't do shit. Joe did it. And now when I'm doing this podcast, I find myself looking back on those days, the techniques I use, the way that I go into certain transitions, the way that I formatted the show in general for how I want it to sound, how I want people to hear it listening. Not only the show, but one show going into the poem, into a next show, how that sounds from the end of one show into the next poem, into the next show. I wanted to have a certain feel, sound. I wanted to have a momentum. I wanted to go down this way. And I kind of want to keep this very clear vision of what the show is. And listening to our show, going back to different things that we did, the different segments we did, the different topics we jumped on, was just so encouraging. And once again, I look back on that and it's like, oh man, we didn't finish it. We stopped and then we tried to do it again and we stopped and it didn't keep going. But instead of looking at it as a failure, it wasn't a failure to me. I don't even like saying it was a failure because it was just something that we did. We stopped and we moved on. That's the way I like to look at it, because now I'm using a lot of the stuff I learned from you in my everyday. No, for real. And I don't say that lightly. I have to give you your flowers, because this show doesn't exist if you don't motivate me to do this type of stuff. If you don't get me out of my box and say, Dominique, you're vocally good for this. You sound good on the podcast. Damn, I sound good on the podcast? Yes, your voice sound good on the podcast. It helped me get to a place where I can listen to these recordings, these interviews, these conversations, and truly be like, damn, wow. I remember when I didn't know anything, and now I'm to this place. Now I'm moving forward. Now that goes to you. This has all been just an incredible learning experience. And it started from those nights of yelling about sports.
And the Muppet Show. Don't forget about that.
Yes. If you are a loyal listener, first and foremost, thank you. Secondly, Joe is one of the many roommates I had while living in Chicago. We lived together through some of the hardest times, fighting to work in our field, trying to network, trying not to lose faith in our abilities. Really out here trying. Joe was one of the guys I gravitated towards more. We were kind of the outside guys. We weren't a part of the main friend group. And we related to each other through sports and our ambitions. I could always trust that Joe was going to look out for me and be honest with his feedback. I tend to cling to those people because it gets hard to know if someone is giving you the correct feedback or if they're buttering your biscuit to keep you happy for future favors. Joe helped me in more ways than he knows, and I'm grateful for his friendship. Routines are very important to me, and you've already kind of started to talk on this as well. I once heard that you have to do something 40 times in a row to create a pattern. And I believe that. I truly believe doing something very consistently, not just a month over a month, every night, every day, doing something consistently and telling yourself, hey, have I done this yet? No, do it again. Do it. Really pushes you into another area. And this year I told my wife for New Year's that my New Year's resolution was going to make 2023 the year of the planner. I want to get back to using my planner daily like I used to, because in college, I feel like my life was so much more organized. And it was one thing that I changed. I used a planner, something I wrote in, and I had my day-to-day with the times that I'm supposed to do this and that. And I go back to that every day, check on what I need to be doing, what time I have for free stuff, and move forward from that. And focusing on that more, I think I'll get more things out of my everyday. I'm starting that this year, and of course, this year is going to be busy, and I'm pumped for a big year. Tell me about your relationship with routines and how they help you from day to day.
It's the unicorn, man. I'm constantly chasing it. I've had moments in my life where I've had a routine, but more times than not, I kind of don't. Currently, my routine right now is 5:30 a.m. I get up for work. I try and get my lunch together and get out the door by 7 o'clock. But other than that, like I kiss my wife when I come home. Like, there's little things like that are routine, but it's nothing that I've set my mind to. One of my goals for this year is to actually get into more of a routine, kind of clean the house on Saturday morning, stuff like that. Make sure that I'm starting to work out again every day, because I was in good shape before the pandemic. And then since the pandemic, it's just been slowly decreasing down.
Yeah.
It's going back into those types of things. And it's kind of funny that you were talking about how you heard it takes 40 times to create a routine or whatever. I was flipping around on Instagram the other day, and one of those inspirational messages popped up that said, like, did you know that people who make their bed are 1,000 times more likely to become millionaires? Mm. And the thought process behind that is, it's not making your bed is going to get you money or anything, but the idea of having a routine and achieving what you set out to do through that routine will get you there. And those people have routine. It's why that I think this kind of goes hand in hand with goals. I think it's not for everybody, but most people, you need a routine to achieve your goals. Because if you're reacting instead of being proactive, you're not progressing. You're trying to put out fires or do things as they come to you, which is fine. You need to do that too. But majority of it needs to be, what am I doing to move forward? And you doing that through routine is really what's going to help you.
Staying consistent, I think, is just so important. People see that and be like, I can trust that guy, Mm-hmm. And a routine begins with that. They see, every time he comes in here, he's like a robot. Like, it's clockwork. He comes in, he does this. I know that I can trust that he'll do it because he has his life together. Just seeing something small like that changes your perspective on how someone is. Like you said, going at someone's house and seeing their house is clean and they have all of their stuff put up and the bed is put together. It's like, oh man, they got it together. So many people really don't do the little things. And I think the key to all of this, in my opinion, is those small routines. I have a lot of small routines I have to do with my keys every day. I haven't lost my keys since college because I started a routine in college to make sure I remember where my keys are. And that sounds so crazy, but it's so true. I've not lost my keys since college because I put it in my brain like, nope, this isn't going to happen anymore. This is too important. I'm too grown to be trying to wonder where this is. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. And the way that I worked it out helps me to this day. And it's something I started over a decade ago, and I continue to do it. I feel like routines for that, like I said, with the planner, are going to be a routine. Trying to get back into my yoga is going to be a routine. Just my work schedule in general is a routine. Like, okay, I work from this to this and this, and I do podcast editing from this to this and this, and I do this on Saturdays. And my Saturdays are just wedding singing. I'm traveling. I'm going where I'm going. I come back Sunday. Usually I'm either asleep. I can't even say that. Because every Sunday, I feel like every Sunday, my wife's family is like, we're going to have a barbecue today. We're going to hang out today. Dominique, you want to hang out? And I'm like, yeah, I'll hang out. I'll come and hang. And I'm like tired. So I don't usually rest on Sundays. But Monday, I wake up, I go to the grocery store, I get my stuff together. I take care of my work for the nonprofit. I get to editing the next podcast, messaging people, putting stuff together for social media. Having these routines, having these creative little things, like you said earlier with the goals, where you put one thing into line to keep moving forward towards the bigger goal. I feel like the routines are the same way. One routine, small routines, move forward to the bigger routines.
Well, I think the most important one, and it's going to sound weird, but the most important thing you just said there is that if you go to the grocery store every Monday or whatever, that's what you did. Because what you just mentioned was you had a plan and there was something that happened that disrupted that plan. And that's going to happen in life. That's going to happen to everyone. That's just life. And that's what we were talking about, being reactive and everything. But where you're being proactive is, I'm going to get myself back on track. This is something I need to do. This is something that's going to happen here. And so I'm going to go up, I'm going to do it. And then I'll bet money that once you do that, you're good to go then. Mm-hmm. Everything just starts moving. Some people get up in the morning and work out, and they have to have that to it, or they got to meditate, or that, just got to get the kids ready or whatever. It's once you do that thing, all of a sudden you're in your cycle and you're moving. And I think that's the most important part of a routine, is just the beginning. Because there's going to be days you're not going to be able to do everything. There's going to be years you're not going to be able to achieve everything. But it's like dieting or like anything else. Just because you had a bad day or one day didn't go your way, you can't just don't throw it all out the window. Relax, forgive yourself, and just pick it back up the next day with whatever you had planned and just keep going from there. Nothing's going to go perfect in life. That's just the reality of it.
Nothing's perfect. Nothing's easy either. A lot of these routines, some people might be listening to this saying, I could never do that. Ugh, that's so much. I don't want to do all of that. I just want to, do what I want to do. I want to wake up whenever I want to. I want to work how I want to. And that's fine. I never believe forcing the way that you do something onto someone else is the key to life. That's not the way it is. My life is 20 times different than everyone else's life. I just truly believe being consistent, pushing towards an overall goal through routines is a very healthy way to get through life. Like, I try my best to push away certain things that people popularize. Everyone and their mother. Oh, I gotta have my coffee. I gotta have this. I drink decaf coffee because I don't want to feel like I need caffeine to get through the day. I already struggle. I feel like I need melatonin to go to sleep. And it sucks when you're like, I need this. And I'm like, I don't need that. I want to work so that I don't need anything. I could just do,
One of the things that comes to my mind when you were talking there was, if you remember a long time ago when we were doing our podcast, I said I wanted to do a podcast that was like, how do I get started? I wanted to talk about, how do you get started in this profession? How do you get started in this profession? And you told me, we never did it because you actually gave me the best advice on that, was that not everyone does everything the same way.
Yeah.
And you were just talking about like, oh, this person doesn't have their routine on this, or they want to wake up whenever they want, and they want to, drink coffee whenever they want, or whatever, they want to do things whenever they want. But the thing is, if you wake up whenever you want, chances are you have a routine.
Yeah.
You're waking up whenever you want because there's something you're doing every night that's causing you to go to bed late or making you sleep in. If you may have a routine that you go to Starbucks every day. That's a routine.
Yeah.
It's sitting there. And if you really want to achieve something, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, at the end of the day, it's all about happiness. Whatever makes you happy is what you have to do. If you want to achieve something, you have to sit there and go, is this routine helpful? If not, how can I change it? Or is there something I can add to it? If going to Starbucks every day makes you happy, then by all means, go to Starbucks every day. That might be your centering thing. Like, I need to do this. Once I do this, I'm good to go. But if there's something you can add after that, or if there's something you can add to that, like, then all of a sudden, I'm not talking about like, oh, I'll get a scone too while I'm there. If there's something you can like drop off the mail or something, I don't know. But like just doing every little bit and adding to your routine, because if one thing's already routine and you add something onto it, then that's a bigger routine and you're adding more and more and more. And before you know it, you're moving in the right direction if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, but you got to also be very aware of what's good and what's bad. What you were getting at right there was really important. You have to be able to recognize bad routines too. Doing good routines is great. Like I said, all the stuff I've been bringing up are great stuff, but there are bad routines. I don't go to sleep early, and I have a problem with that. It's been because years, you know this. I've been bartending for years. I've been in these streets for years. So that's still a routine I'm trying to fix. That's something that I just can't knock. Getting out of bed and, rolling around, sleeping uncomfortably because I'm not ready to sleep. That's a bad routine. There's Candy Crush. I remember when I had Candy Crush on my phone. I didn't get anything done. And that was a bad routine that I formed. That was something that I was like, I kind of feel like I need to do this. And it was like, no, you don't. Get up out of there. Stop doing that. Change it. I'm not afraid to delete apps. I'm not afraid to change my entire phone situation, put sleep mode on certain apps where it goes off after an hour, or I'm not afraid to do that. And I think that's helpful for me because some people, get in a routine. Oh, this is how I do it. So I'm going to do it this way, and I feel like that's something that we as a generation, we're better at it as a generation because older people, back in the day, well, this is the way it's always been. That's something I feel like I've heard so much from my grandparents, uncles. Oh, man, it used to be like this, and this is the way we've always done it. Why should we change it now? Because it's unhealthy. Change it. Do something different. Create a different path. Be original. You don't have to follow George Washington. That guy's dead. But when it comes to routines, it's the same way. Your day to day, when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep, what do you feel like you did that day that was a routine or something that you always do that was unnecessary? Can you eliminate that? Are you able to stop doing that? Some cases it's hard. I wake up every morning and I have a cigarette. That person's not going to be able to just say, I don't want a cigarette every morning anymore.
No.
It's very hard routine to get rid of. But it's something that you should be able to at least say, you know what, I know this is bad, and I want to move forward from it. The night we met, I knew I needed you so. And if I had the chance, I'd never let you go, babe. So won't you say you love me? I'll make you so proud of me. We'll make them turn their heads every place we go. So won't you please be my... This is my cover of Be My Baby by the Ronettes from my second studio album, New Art. You can listen to my music on all streaming platforms, and you can check me out for more information at domlamour.com, where you can get anything and everything Dom Lamour. I'll make you happy, baby. Just wait and see. For every smooch you give me. Last thing I want to speak about is how to achieve what you want and the fears and anxieties that might stop you from getting what you want. For me, I find myself, like I said earlier, I procrastinate about a lot of stuff. And I remember I did this tour in 2015. Went to New York, went to Chicago, did a show in LA, did a show in St. Louis. Was going to go to College Town, but had to cancel that show. But I had this whole mapped out plan. Did it. Was maybe the most fun I'd ever had on a winter break in my life. I remember that December like it was yesterday. I saw so many people I loved. I got to hang out with so many people in so many different cities. I got to be in Chicago. I got to be in New York. I got to live in LA. I got to be home for the holidays. I got to do all of these wonderful things. I achieved the goal that I had for that year. I pushed myself to a new level. But after that happened, I got back to LA. I lost my job. They didn't bring me back. Got back to LA. I'm struggling to find a different place to work, how to pay for bills. Wow, I did something I loved and I achieved a goal, something that I really wanted to do. Did I think this through correctly? I guess I didn't. Maybe I did something wrong. When I look at it now, I look at that, I'm like, no, you did something incredible. And that was what you should have done. And the other stuff that happened, it was unfortunate, but it wasn't meant for you to be in those places anyway. That's how I look at it now, mature and in a better place. But at the time, I was afraid to do stuff. I didn't do a show the next year for a couple months. I haven't done a tour since then because financially, it's true.
Oh, I believe it.
It crippled me. It made it hard for me to travel. It made me, I was in so much debt just from that and from the album I put out before that. I just didn't understand, like, why is it so hard to achieve the goals that I want to do? Why am I being penalized for doing something that I love? And that really hurt. It made those goals hard. It made it seem like I was doing something wrong. It pushed me away from what I wanted to do when I should have looked at it as ammunition to push even harder. And within our relationship, I feel like we've always shared our dreams and stuff that we want to do with each other. We've always, like I said, Monday Night Football was those nights where we got to kind of just vent to each other.
Oh, yeah.
We got to just sit down and say, man, I did this week and it went this way and it sucked. Drink a beer, like
drink a beer and listen to Uptown Funk. That was usually
what a tune. What a tune. What are some things you want to achieve, and what are some of the struggles that you're having with those achievements?
One of my biggest fears is wasting time. There was a period in my life that I put out resumes to every radio station around, and I didn't hear back. I even would get brought in for an interview maybe, and then not hear from them again. It was very demoralizing to me, to where I still to this day, someone goes, well, they've got a job opening. And my mind immediately goes to, oh, well, I know the politics of this. I'm not going to get this job. I'm not going to get that job. I'm not going to get that job. I'm trying to break that down and get away from that, in the sense of, now if I see a job that I like, I turn to my wife and I sit there and say, hey, do you think this would be a good job for me? Yes. All right, then let's make up a resume for it. Let's send it out. It's trying to get over that fear of, all right, in my head, yeah, all that stuff still is probably going to happen. But the truth is, it only needs to go the other way once for it to not matter. I'm playing a game of numbers here, in the sense of, you can fail a million times. And that's what we're really all afraid of at the end of the day, is safety and failure and that stuff. But you only need to succeed once. As long as you don't hurt yourself or the people around you in trying to achieve what you want to achieve, there's nothing wrong with failing. There's nothing wrong with doing it wrong. Okay, what went wrong there? If you know, great, fix it. If not, okay, pick yourself back up and try it again. Maybe that just wasn't going to be that time. That's been my hardest thing trying to get over.
I feel like a lot of people are afraid of failure. It's a fear that when someone says, what are you afraid of? They don't say stuff like that. They be like, oh, I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of black holes. I'm afraid of these weird things. But it's like, most people's real fear is failure. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to do something and turn around and someone look at me and be like, you can't do that. And then they block you out of doing something that you want to do. I totally see that in myself in many ways, where I should send an audition tape. I should go to an open mic. I should be talking to certain instrumentalists. I should be performing in certain venues. I should be stretching myself to go other places. But from the history of working, from the setbacks I've had in other scenarios, I see an opportunity and I'm like, ooh, I know how this is going to end. But I could never truly know how it's going to end.
Correct.
But my head has this fear of failing that I immediately, I calculated it through my brain of experience. That's not going to work the way I want it to. And more than likely, I'm right. More likely, I'm like, hey, it won't. It's not going to happen. But there's a slim margin within there where it could go completely opposite of what I think. And it could have been that opportunity that would have changed my life. Mm-hmm. It's really, really scary to live, especially in a world like what we're in, where we're doing stuff with radio and performance. People are hearing your voice or seeing your face or judging you in any way because of what you do, because you're putting yourself out there. But you really have to find ways to fight through that fear to achieve what you want to do, because you have to. You have to put yourself out there. You have to, no matter what, even if you do not get a role or you don't get a job, that person seeing you 2-3 years down the line could be the reason why you get another opportunity. And you don't realize it because you're like, oh, I knew I wasn't going to get that opportunity anyway, so why even go for it?
And we're talking about this in the performance space, but this could apply to almost any job that you have. This could apply to an office job, or it could apply to your personal life. This could actually apply to just about anything, in the sense of, you really only need to achieve once. You don't need to keep going. Now, when I say achieve once, I mean, whatever your task, whatever your goal is, you only need to achieve your goal once. Then you set your new goals and you work on achieving them. You don't have to keep time and time again achieving the same thing, because truthfully, that's not growth either. And you're not going to become a better person. You're not going to evolve. You're going to be talking about how you were with George Washington, stuck there saying this is the way it's always been, if you don't sit there and set yourself a new goal. It doesn't mean there was anything wrong with your old goal or that it wasn't good that you achieved it. But now it's time to evolve and achieve your new goal.
how awesome is it to have a wife?
It's really awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
It changes everything.
It is. And I mean, it's something that I've always wanted. And I'm super happy that I found her, in the sense of I was always looking for a partner. I was always looking for someone who you can attack the world with, who, and this is not just one way. It's not like, oh, she has to only make me feel better. It's like, no, part of my job here is to make her feel better and help her achieve what she wants to achieve. When you meet the right person, it's like someone always having your back and giving you that confidence and that reinforcement. I know you and I have that too, but like, we're going to go our separate ways and then we'll catch up again in, a few months or whatever, or next time we're in the same city. But with your wife, you're there day in and day out in the same space, and you both can help each other progress and become better and get what it is you want out of life. And I mean, that's the best part about it. It's a partner who you can share everything with.
Do you think, like, back in 2010, we're in Chicago, broke, it's cold, will we get to the place where we are now?
No. No.
Absolutely not. There's no way. I'm like, there's no way.
I've actually even told my wife, I go, we're lucky we met when we did, because we would have dated in high school, maybe in college, but there was a period in my early 20s where you would have wanted to have nothing to do with me because I had the most negative mindset. I would not have been a fun person to be around. So no, you asked that person then, his answer is no.
Wow. I'm so happy for you. I'm sad I couldn't make it to the wedding. I know that you had a blast. It looked like the pictures were real fun. And I just love seeing all the stuff with you and your wife on Instagram. And I'm so happy for you. I'm happy you're doing well. It's so good to hear your voice. It's so crazy. We haven't spoken in how long we've spoken. And it hasn't been that long. We send messages and texts or whatever, but it's always just great to hear you, to talk to you, to speak to you in person. And I always appreciate these moments. So thank you so much for giving me some time today.
Oh, no. Thank you. I got to say, before we wrap this up, even how proud I am of you. I mean, the way the show is structured, your delivery, how you were talking about with transitions and everything. You took everything that we did, and you can tell that not only did you listen, but you went out and expanded your own knowledge. And I couldn't be more proud of this podcast that you put out. It means a lot.
Thank you so much. We've gotten through these conversations, and all I want to know now is, how do you feel?
I feel pretty good. It's like a therapy session. I like it.
For sure. Cheers to you. I appreciate you so much, man. I want to thank you for listening to the Black Men Talking Emotions podcast. The opening quote credit goes to Jack Canfield, and shout out to Joe for being on the pod. Follow Joe at JoeGroeller on Instagram. Please subscribe to the podcast and give us a good rating, 5 stars, please. And thank you. Also, tell me your stories about these subjects at DOML_AMOUR on Instagram, or at DomLamour.com. I'm Dom Lamour. Much love.